Danielle and Vida with ND Out Loud, and we are talking support for professionals that work with those with neurodivergence and or may have it as well.
Yeah, and also may have it.
And I want to target teachers specifically and therapists because obviously Vida is a school teacher and I am a therapist. And we see so many in our world that just don't know how to deal with the accommodations needs of neurodivergence. And neurodivergence is all of the things. So just a quick reminder, neurodivergence can be ADHD, it could be autism, it could be learning disabilities, it could be epilepsy, it could be migraines, it could be autoimmune disorders, it could be bipolar disorder or other mental health things. So there's a wide rainbow in many flavors of neurodivergence. And there's not enough really great training out there. There just really isn't enough really great training out there.
Well, and for public schools, this isn't just teachers. This is administrators, because administrators deal with lots of discipline issues and things like that, and they're constantly dealing with all the students. But when you're dealing with neurodivergent students, your take on these things is very differently. Or school counselors or department heads. Like anybody that works in a school could use professional development about dealing with neurodivergent children.
The school secretary, school receptionist, the school resource officers, especially the school resource officer. Well, definitely the resource officers. Everybody needs better support and some professional development on these specific issues. So what are some of the things that you've seen that really, like, because you've been in school districts, you've done behavior modification training and things like that. So what are some of the things that really stick out to you that aren't covered?
Everything. De-escalation techniques, 100%. When I taught positive behavior interventions, a lot of things, really, when I would go into schools, everyone is overworked, understaffed, overstressed. There's so many things. So we know that emotional regulation when you are in a high stress environment is hard to do. And then because they're children, they have trouble with emotional regulation, and then they're also stressed or they have heightened emotions, different things. So if you put two emotionally unregulated people in a scenario and I'm like, I need one of you to be an adult and diffuse this. If you don't practice that, it is a powder keg. Like some days you're able to diffuse it fine. Some days they push your buttons and it's all over. So I really think diffusing situations, you learn it when you're going to school to be a therapist, you learn it in counseling, you learn it in behavior intervention. There are some definite standard practices to diffusing a high stress situation, but I don't think they are taught to teachers at all. You just have to figure it out.
It's more than just figuring it out. It's figuring out for the particular flavor that your student is too, because you don't know what you're dealing. Are you dealing with a student who's just didn't sleep last night? Are you dealing with a student who is deep in PDA or RSD? Or are you dealing with a child that had some major trauma, mental, physical, emotional trauma this morning? You never know what you're going to get, and being able to pick the right flavor of what to do is really difficult. And then understanding how to keep that child engaged. I mean, if you've got a neurodivergent child, there's always their socks don't fit right today, so it's driving them insane and they can't handle life because they have socks on, or they have shoes on, or they have that sweatshirt on that they hate, whatever. How do you as a teacher, therapist, counselor, whatever, deal with this child on a day-to-day basis? And I think from the aspect of a parent having to try to explain to teachers how to deal with their neurodivergent child, and I insert major eye rolls there because I gave up because the poor teachers could not deal with, they didn't have the resources, the skills, the spoons to deal with 20 neurodivergent kids in a classroom. So how do we as in Vida and I provide that kind of support that needs to be provided? Because again, the school districts just don't have it. Teachers aren't taught it in college, all of these things. Well, funny you should ask. We have so many ways that we teach this stuff. So many ways. I actually was recently at Disney World and I spent my evening talking to a school teacher. She's like, I can't do that in classroom. Well, why can't you do that in the classroom? Well, because I can't have accommodations for just one child in my classroom. I'm like, whoa, let's rephrase this. All kids need
Absolutely
accommodations.
can have accommodations for one child in your classroom. It's called an IEP.
Yeah. Or a 504 plan. So there were a group of us that were all by ourselves at Disney World as single people there on solo trips. And three out of the four of us in this group wanted to slap her because the other three of us were neurodivergent. We're like, no, no, no. But we're talking about some really simple things here, like, do you have fidgets in your classroom? Well, no, because that would be distracting. We have a mission to make sure teachers have the skills, the know-how, and the support that they need. So that's something that we offer here is we offer ADHD coaching, but if you're non-neurodivergent and need to be able to support neurodivergence, we also can coach you on that. Same, our packages are exactly the same for you as they are for everyone else. Come get the support you need. But what are some of the things we're going to be doing at the Disney trip specifically? We are going to be doing professional development for teachers, therapists on helping them deal with NDs. All flavors, obviously. So all of the flavors of ND, but what are some of the things that we're definitely going to do? Because I know you've got some really special things that you're going to teach.
So we're all going to work on de-escalation techniques, and we're going to put you in role-playing scenarios because role-playing scenarios are safe. And as an ADHD, this is where a lot of autistic people learn how to do stuff. And it could be by watching a movie or reading a book, but seeing these situations play out. That's how they internalize a script of action. So we're going to role play a little bit for de-escalation techniques, from parenting scenarios, from coworker scenarios, to all the scenarios we can think of. It's fun, it's a little wild, and it's super cathartic. So we're going to do that. My husband, who is also a school teacher, is going to be there, and he's going to teach everyone the Zentangle method. He uses it in his art classes. One, it teaches everyone that they're an artist. Two, it helps you become resilient with mistakes. It also is a way of self-regulating yourself in meetings, in appointments, just whenever you need. It is a very easy coping skill that once you learn, you can take with you anywhere. And it's super fun and cool and artistic, and you end up making some really cool art on top of that. Then we're going to have, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're going to have lots of things in the park, where we're like, hey, welfare check, and we send it out and we talk to everybody like, oh, okay, you're dysregulated, talk to me, and we're going to talk you through those situations.
Something else I did is I was talking to a family whose children were melting down in the park while I was there, and I turned around and I started talking to the kids, and we started having a conversation, and we redirected them and got them back on track and helped them. I taught two toddlers how to self-regulate, and this is how I taught them to self-regulate, is I have these stickers with texture on them. They're calm strips, and doing something as simple as talking to them about what it says and what it means, and can we take deep breaths with every letter. And these kids went from 9,000 to 0 in a matter of 30 seconds. But teaching that in the middle of a meltdown, because I will walk up to anybody in the park melting down and help the parent out. And the parents were about in tears because they saw that. And the teacher that was hanging out with me, she's like, that was so easy. I'm like, yes, it doesn't take a huge amount of effort to do some of those things. You just have to know what to look for.
Right. And a lot of times it's an opposite sensory response from whatever's going on. So, there's lots of things that we have collected from our years of expertise and lived experiences that we can teach you. I saw a parent helping their child regulate the other day, and it was the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. And it was a dad, and he was holding his hand up, and the little girl was crying, and he was having her trace his fingers up and down, just back and forth until she calmed down. But it was a tactile thing. She had to concentrate to do it. It was a switch from her fight or flight brain to this task-oriented activity. So there's lots of things that we can teach you, and maybe some of these things you already know. You've just been in survival mode so long at your job, you've forgotten them.
Well, in looking at things, it's often easier for somebody who's not dealing and been in your situation because you're exhausted and frustrated and all of these things, taking a look at the situation and helping you go, oh, do you remember when you learned this? Do you remember when you learned that? And a lot of these things will also make you the cool teacher in school just by doing some of these things. You know, those goofy bubble wands at Disney World that most all adults look at those and go, oh my God, I hate those things after being in Disney World for a week. But you want to know what greatest thing to have in your classroom ever? Bubble wand, bubble machine. It's really good at helping kids regulate. And it helps adults regulate too, because Ask Vida and I, we both have them in our homes because we use them because they help regulation. So we're going to teach a whole lot of other things. We're also going to teach you how to do multi-sensory meditation with a kid to help bring them down. And because classrooms aren't quiet, schools aren't quiet in any way, shape, or form. So how do you use multi-sensory things to get some of the same results as getting a kid to focus, getting them to do things? There's so many things that we're going to teach you while we're there. Everything is meant for professional development. Also learning how to recognize what accommodations someone needs. And if you are the neurodivergent teacher, there are accommodations you could be asking for at work.
Yeah. And it's scary. It's scary. A lot of people right now are struggling with self-disclosure and things like that. But there are a lot of accommodation that you can ask for without having to disclose anything.
And there are a lot of accommodations you can give yourself without having to ask for anything from somebody else. I mean, there's
Right.
so many things that we can use. And I will tell you, one of the best things that most teachers, and I've started talking to my teachers about these things are amazing. You can wear them all day long. They're an accommodation you could provide yourself, and you're going to love them, and they will help if you have auditory overload, which I think all adults have auditory overload. I've decided, I think we all have that.
Like, I do want to point out one thing though, and this will be something that we can practice. Disney. So if you are an educator, I'm going to tell you right now, there are a collection of things that your students will be more overly stimulated in, and these have been researched, and there is data to back this up. So full moons, windy, high wind days, changes in barometric pressure, stormy weather, after recess, like after a change, like in between specials or class or lunch, it's wild. And then as your student starts to walk through the day, like everybody has a lot of cognitive load in the morning. Like you have a lot of brain power in the morning, but as you march through the day, it decreases. So end of the day, you ask your student to do a really complex task. Like let's say they're a high school student, they have math at the end of the day. They're not going to get as much out of that math class as they would as if they had it in the morning. And so knowing these things, especially if you're an administrator, there are some things that you can do, some very easy things you can do that will change the culture in your building.
So as a therapist, teacher, educator, administrator in the education system, please come join us. We've put a lot of time and effort into this trip, and all professional development has some joy that comes to it for the person attending. And so we put this in Disney World for you to have fun, but also for you to really learn and apply every single thing that we teach. We have about 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours of coaching a day that is dedicated coaching. And then we're going to have all sorts of bonus things that you can attend depending on what if you are neurodivergent and you need to learn because you also have neurodivergent kids, we'll have a section for you. If you are a neurodivergent teacher or an educator and want to learn, we'll have a section for you. If you're a therapist or just have employees in a normal work situation, we'll have some bonus content and some trainings going on off and on all day long for everyone for all of these things. We have tried to make a pretty inclusive neurodivergent professional development situation for you here to give you all of the things that you need to support neurodivergence better, because neurodivergent adults, neurodivergent children, spouses, parents, whatever, need more support than they are getting. And there is so much out there, especially right now, on the realities of disclosing and or not being able to get the support that someone needs in a relationship, in an education situation, in a work situation. And we want to help change that narrative because it shouldn't be scary to share with people, and we shouldn't have to do without and still suffer and have shame and frustration and overwhelm, burnout, and literally have mental health breakdowns because the accommodations that are necessary aren't provided. because they can
Right.
be, and they aren't difficult, and they also aren't expensive. And I think a lot of teachers and educators, and especially admin staff, is always worried that, well, if I provide that accommodation, it's going to get really expensive because other people are going to want that. Some of the things are super simple, super simple, and don't require any special materials or anything expensive at all. They're just really simple things that can be done with what you already have on hand. You already have pencil and paper in school. There's so many ways that we could teach you how to use that pencil and paper to help your neurodivergence in your classrooms.
The thing is to be around people that I mean, that make you feel safe, seen, and heard, that make you feel free to ask questions, to make you feel like, okay, I'm around people and I can brainstorm this.
Absolutely. And start building your community. One of the best things and the biggest things that we all need, whether you are a neurodivergent yourself or just supporting a neurodivergence, is having a community to come back to once you're back in real life situations and say, hey, I'm dealing with this. Can somebody help me? Give me ideas, help me adapt it, whatever it needs. And we are also giving you a year of that community for community, and the coaching support from the professional staff that are going to be at the trip will be supporting you for a whole year after this trip. So we are available to you in every way that we possibly can give you through this trip. The cost of this trip is $3,250. It is for all of the professional development, like I said, 4 to 6 hours of training every single day, depending on which track you choose and which things you need, your hotel room, all of your food while you're in the park, 3-day park hopper passes, magic bands to make getting in and out of your room and getting in and out of the park super easy, as well as lots of other things. And we also have an accommodation specialist that will be in the park with us to help you find the accommodations you need for whatever you need. Are you having a meltdown? Are you having a bad day? We've got somebody there that will be there specifically to help you. Again, this is a write-off you can use if you are a parent or someone with your own version of neurodivergence. You can use this and use your HSA and FSA to pay for this trip, because it is a health and wellness trip. We will be talking about food and eating and healthcare and self-care and all of those things during this trip as well. So we are available. We are trying to make this as easy as possible for everyone to attend with us. If you have questions, please reach out. This will be on our YouTube channel and our podcast. You could also find us on Facebook and TikTok and everywhere. We are ND Out Loud. Have an amazing day.
If you sign up now, you get it cheaper than if you wait kind of to the last minute,
Yep.
because the closer things get to the deadline, just because of the nature of the beast of having to plan something, the price goes up.
The price will be going up $250 in June and another $250 in July. So it goes up June 19th. So get in now before June 19th at $3,250. I can't say that in another way. For some reason, my brain cannot process that. So $3,250 right now. You can break the payments up into some smaller payments to make it easier if you need be. And there will be a certificate on each of the things that we are teaching for professional development that you will get post-trip. So there will be, this is actually set up for professional development. You will get a letter and a certificate for that afterwards once you attend everything. So if you have any questions, please let us know and get deposits in ASAP so you can get in at the current pricing. If you have any questions,
Yes.
I hope to hear from you soon.